Okay, so we're going to start with list stack. I'm going to say new unit test case. It's called list stack test. That's good. I'm going to click on the setup method. And I'm going to go ahead and say next. And look what it gives me. It says, do you want to create some test stubs for all of these class? Notice I clicked next here, not finished. So if I want to, I can say, yes, I want to create stubs for all of these things. And then it notices that list stack inherits from abstract stack, so it asks me if I want to create tests for these things also, and yes, I do. And abstract class inherits from object, so it asks me if I want to create tests for all of these, and no, I don't. I don't want to test those object methods. Those are from Java, so that I trust those work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish. I need to add the Java 4 library to my path. Okay. And as easy as that, I got all of my tests. Okay. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to create a private list. I'm going to do a list of strings. You have to have a concrete list here. I usually use collections of strings when I'm testing, and I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to call this, and why am I using list? I should be using a stack of strings. And let me make sure that I'm naming this right. Yes, it is a stack. Okay, and I'm going to call it S. And in fact, I'm going to call this S0. This is just something I do so that I know that this stack starts out with no elements. This starts out as an empty stack. So, whoops, I'm not going to initialize that. I'm going to declare it there. And I'm going to initialize it here. So I'm going to initialize it in the setup method with a new list stack. I'm going to use the diamond notation. And this is a bounded stack, so I have to give this a particular bound. I'm going to give it a bound of 5. Okay, and I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to create another stack. And this is going to be a stack with 3 elements already in it. Okay, or that will be its initial value after coming out of the setup method. So it's also going to be a list stack. And let's see, it's also going to have a capacity of 5. And I'm just going to add things to this stack. I'm going to push things on this stack. So it's a stack of strings. So let's push A, B, and C onto there. Okay. Copy that. Paste that a couple of times. A, B, C. And now I've got a couple of stacks. Okay. So, this one tests the constructor. And let's see, the constructor takes a capacity and just creates an empty stack. So I do want to make sure that the initial stack is empty. So let's do that. Assert true. SO is empty. Okay, and I can test a few other things about a newly created stack here. Assert equals 0 S0 length or depth. Okay, this is a stack, so this is depth. And then I just saw this other one I wanted to use, capacity. Okay. So the capacity should be 5 when it's created. Okay, and these all test things about a newly created stack. And you can do more, but I would just want to give you some examples here. So that's testing the constructor, but now for every method that I have, I want to make sure that if it's possible for it to throw an exception, I want to test that too. And the way you test exceptions is with the expected keyword there in the annotation. And let's see, a stack can throw an illegal argument exception. Come on, .class. And I'm going to call this public void test list stack IAE. And then essentially I wanted to throw an illegal argument exception if I pass in a negative number here, or if I pass in 0 actually too. So I'm going to actually write two different exceptions for this, or two different test classes for this. So let's do, we don't have to create a new stack here. We can just, we don't have to create a new, declare a new variable here. We can use SO and just assign it to a new list stack. So let's put in a negative number there. Okay, and I'm going to put fail there, because this test should fail if I ever reach here. All right, so this will throw an illegal argument exception. All right, and if I don't throw an illegal argument exception, I will fail the test. So I'm going to put fail there. And WebCat will complain if you don't have that fail there. All right, so I'm going to create another test, Control C, called ListStack IAE2 with 0 there, because it should fail if I put in a 0 also. Okay, so that has to be, the capacity has to be positive. All right, it has to be at least 1. Okay, so test capacity. All right, here's the thing about, test capacity, test depth. I can write test methods for these, but these are accessor methods. So, when you have a simple accessor method, you're going to be using your accessor methods to really test the other methods. So some people do write tests for accessor methods. Some people don't write tests for accessor methods. I'm not going to write tests for accessor. For simple accessor methods, I'm not going to test them. Okay, that's just what I've decided to do here. Any kind of mutator methods, you definitely want to test. Accessor methods that are sophisticated or complex, like toString is usually a complicated method. You definitely want to test that. But simple accessor methods that just return the value of a of an instance variable, you typically don't have to test those. At least I'm not going to. Same thing with depth. Now depth, okay, I'm not going to test that. You can test that if you want to. I'm not going to test that. Is valid. The problem with is valid is you can't really test is valid without exposing the representation. So if you look at our is valid, look at list stack. Look at is valid. Is valid, for example, says it's going to be true if capacity is greater than 0. The problem is that how are you going to test capacity here? Capacity is an instance variable, and you can't set the capacity. The only way you can set the capacity is in the constructor. Sorry, scrolled the wrong way. The only way you can set the capacity is here in the constructor. You're setting the capacity when you call the abstract stack constructor. And that's going to throw an illegal argument exception if this capacity is less than or equal to 0. So in fact, you can never, if you've implemented this correctly, you can never get a capacity that's less than 0. So you can never test if this is valid gives you false. In other words, if you have implemented this class perfectly, is valid should never return false. Okay, so we're not going to worry about testing the is valid operation here for that reason. Okay, we're going to test new instance, we're going to test pop, we're going to test push. Although, you know, we're going to get an error here if push is wrong. Okay. So to test push, we're just going to basically test S3. Okay, we're going to just check if everything is correct there. We're going to test the iterator, test hash code, test abstract stack, constructor. Do we really need to test the abstract stack constructor? We're just calling it from the list stack constructor, so I don't think that's going to be a relevant test. We're going to test copy, flip, is empty, is full. We're going to test equals, and we're going to test toString. Okay, that all looks good.